oversight court hearing tomorrow because the Monitor says the department has not been forthcoming about how the 31-year-old died. Correction Commissioner Luis Molina initially said no foul play occurred, but then it was revealed that Valles actually died of a fractured skull, which raises a lot of questions about what happened, and it conflicts with how the department had initially reported the incident. Another man, Rubu Zhao, died by suicide after jumping from a top tier in a jail facility. The Monitor wants the judge to order the department to consider the installation of a barrier to prevent such incidents in the future. There was also another death back in February due to a seizure. But going forward, the news organization The City reported that the Correction Department will not, as it has in the past, proactively notify the media about deaths. That means from now on, reporters will have to hear about a detainee who dies, get it leaked to us essentially, and then the Correction Department would confirm it.
These are the sort of transparency issues that the Monitor is raising a red flag about. Isn't that right?
Yeah, exactly. Monitor Steve Martin said that the department's leaders ignore, delay, or act defensive when asked for information by the monitoring team. He says that violates federal court orders that the city is under to fix these jails with Martin's assistance. Martin also says correction officials fail to implement reforms that it promises to make to the court. He asserted that the department defied a promise to remove certain problematic officers from a team known for using excessive chokeholds, chemical spray, head strikes against detainees. And he's particularly concerned about the department blocking information about 5 violent incidents in May, including one confrontation with officers that left a detainee paralyzed, another where a detainee was assaulted by other detainees and then left, quote, naked and alone and ignored by officers for hours. That man had several broken ribs and ended up having to get his spleen removed.
Matt, I'm curious, what do you expect to come out of this hearing tomorrow, this federal hearing?
We expect the city to report progress to the federal judge. That's what they told us in a statement last week, saying that although violence has gotten worse during the Monitor's long, almost 8-year tenure, some indicators like officer use of force and stabbings have actually decreased this year compared to last year. We'll also hear outrage from defense attorneys from the Legal Aid Society who want the city jails taken over by a federal receiver because they say the city and the Adams administration can no longer manage them humanely. But the wild card, I think, will be what prosecutors from U.S. Attorney Damian Williams' office will say in court, because they have so far not joined the growing call for that federal takeover through a federal receivership. The judge on the case is also, so far, not keen on that idea either, but, we shall see.
We certainly will. WNYC's Matt Katz with continuing reporting on Rikers Island. Matt, thanks so much.
Thanks, Michael.
WNYC is supported by Starkmont Financial, providing accounting professionals for entertainment and healthcare companies. Additional information at starkmontfinancial.com.
On the next Brian Lehrer Show, Brooklyn and Manhattan Congressman Dan Goldman, previously the Democratic counsel during the first Trump impeachment, will get his take on the developments in the classified documents and other investigations nearing conclusion. The Brian Lehrer Show, weekdays at 10 a.m. on WNYC.
The largest bank merger in more than a decade.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive. Progressive Commercial Insurance protects small businesses with customizable coverage options as unique as your business. More at progressivecommercial.com. And by UiPath, providing organizations the UiPath AI-powered business automation platform. More at uipath.com/marketplace. UiPath, the foundation of innovation.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore, in for David Brancaccio. UBS announced today it has wrapped up its emergency takeover of Credit Suisse. The bank will now hold trillions of dollars worth of assets. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer has the details.
UBS agreed to take over Credit Suisse during this spring's banking crisis. The deal was arranged by Swiss authorities. They were worried about the stability of Credit Suisse. In a press release announcing the completion of the deal, UBS said Credit Suisse will continue to have its own branches, but UBS does plan to cut down on risk. It's expected to require Credit Suisse to comply with UBS restrictions on risk for some clients and loans, and UBS may decide not to do business with some Credit Suisse clients. Swiss officials brokered the deal because they were afraid that losses at Credit Suisse would trigger a run on the bank. The Swiss government agreed to a $10 billion guarantee against losses UBS might incur as it wraps up Credit Suisse's assets. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
With the labor market so tight still, some employers have resorted to hiring more teens. The number of youth employed in violation of federal child labor standards has more than doubled in the last 5 years, according to data from the Labor Department. At the same time, a number of states are loosening child labor laws. Marketplace's Elizabeth Troval reports.
The Department of Labor found hundreds of workplaces in violation of these laws that protect minors, affecting nearly 4,000 kids. Fast food restaurants McDonald's, Subway, and Dunkin' Donuts had the most violations, according to 2022 data.
Many franchisees across many states have been investigated.
Nina Mast is with the Economic Policy Institute. She says fast food restaurants have been dinged for working kids too many hours and in violation of protections against hazardous work.
Particularly around the use of manual deep fat fryers and other hazardous equipment in the fast food industry.
Mast's research found in the last 2 years, at least 10 states have passed or have pushed looser child labor laws. That includes lifting safety restrictions and extending work hours, which can hurt child development, says Dartmouth professor Eric Edmonds.
If you're working 8 hours at best, you're getting home then at 11. That's with no extracurriculars, no social development, no time to eat.
He says children who work unsafe or unhealthy jobs are often from poor households. Some may even be coerced. I'm Elizabeth Troval for Marketplace.
All right, let's do the numbers. S&P futures up 0.2%, NASDAQ futures up 0.4%, Dow futures pretty much flat, down 2 points.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Amazon Business, helping provide a smarter, easier way to get the supplies businesses need to thrive. Amazon Business, your partner for smart business buying. And by Palo Alto Networks. Palo Alto Networks delivers what's next in cybersecurity innovation to protect today's digital way of life. Learn more at paloaltonetworks.com. And by Grammarly, offering Grammarly Business to help companies large and small communicate better and move faster with enterprise-grade generative artificial intelligence. Learn more at grammarly.com/business.
Food inflation has been stubbornly high for a while. It was 7.7% in April compared to overall inflation of just 4.9%. We'll get the latest numbers for May tomorrow. The high price of food has led some companies that make the things we eat to fudge their ingredients, substituting cheaper options to save money. Here's the BBC's Leanna Byrne.
When we're picking up our groceries or taking a bite into our meal, we'd like to think that what it says in the packaging is really what's inside. But as food and energy prices have ballooned in much of the world, so has the temptation to fake ingredients to make a bigger profit.
There's an increased exposure risk here because all of the conditions are perfect breeding ground for someone, if they want to step in and cheat the system, to come in and do that.
That's Dr. Terry McGrath, CTO and founder of food fraud detection company BIA Analytical in Belfast in Northern Ireland. He says it can be very difficult to spot many types of food fraud.
So this here's an example of powdered oregano. It smells like oregano. It's a mixture of oregano and olive leaves.
BIA Analytical found that 25% of oregano that they tested had been adulterated. And that's when you make food or drugs of poor quality by adding some other substances to them. And whilst olive leaves won't kill you, in India, some more frightening sounding additives are being used to bulk out products. Darpan Gupta, shop owner in Karari Buwali Market in Delhi, says he sees it all the time.
Products can be adulterated with dust, chemical, or cheaper alternatives. For instance, in spices, mace can be adulterated with a cheaper artificial alternative called rampatri.
Mitchell Weinberg is a global food fraud investigator. He set up his business, Inscotech, which is based in New York after getting food poisoning from eating contaminated ice cream while on holiday in China. He says, shockingly, his findings aren't always welcomed by companies.
I know for investigations that I've done where I've uncovered problems that there haven't been recalls. The brand will be devastated by it, and it will cost them a lot of money.
Different countries have varying food safety laws. Penalties for breaking some of them include unlimited fines and, in serious cases, prison sentences. But back in the lab in Belfast, Terry McGrath says proper global regulation is desperately needed.
You want something that pulls all of these different food groups together, because that's what gives you the transparency, where you have traceability, testing, weights and measures.
Without that, the food investigator Mitchell Weinberg fears we'll just see more widespread contamination like the recent milk scandal in China when tainted formula killed 6 babies.
The only thing that will change it is if there is something that is really catastrophic that happens.
As food companies face rising production costs, there's now more temptation than ever to cut corners with ingredients, unless governments and companies start to work together to protect everyone. I'm the BBC's Leanna Byrne for Marketplace.
And in New York, I'm Sabri Benishore with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
WNYC supporters include Apple TV Plus presenting Ted Lasso starring Jason Sudeikis, Brett Goldstein, and Hannah Waddingham. What soccer coach Lasso lacks in knowledge, he makes up for with optimism, and Biscuits, streaming on Apple TV Plus.
This is WNYC FM.
Good morning. A massive truck fire yesterday in Philadelphia has caused a busy section of I-95 to be shut down indefinitely. Repairing the damage could take months.
The northbound side of I-95 has completely collapsed, and the southbound side is not structurally sound to carry any traffic over it.
I'm Michael Hill. It's Morning Edition from NPR and WNYC. Indicted former President Trump is continuing his campaign. He's expected to surrender to authorities tomorrow. With states rolling back child labor laws, House lawmakers look to raise the minimum age for farm work to 14. And 4 kids are recovering after being found alive in the Amazon 40 days after a plane crash. It's Monday, June 12th. The news is next.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Korva Coleman. Ukraine says it has started its long-anticipated counteroffensive against Russian forces. There have been few details about the military action, but NPR's Greg Myrie says it started by Ukrainian troops recapturing 4 small Ukrainian villages.
This is the very first salvo of what's expected to be the biggest battle of the war, one likely to play out for much of this summer, if not beyond. And it's shaping up the way many predicted. Looks like Ukraine wants to drive to the southeast coast. This would cut the Russian forces in half, one group to the east, one to the south, and leave the Russians much more vulnerable.
NPR's Greg Myrie reporting. Italy's former Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi has died, according to his own television network. He was 86 years old and had suffered from leukemia.